Welcome, welcome,
Ah,
welcome to day one of the 9-day retreat.
we have Olivia. Is Olivia joining us for a few minutes? She can say hi. Hi, Olivia. That's so cool. All right.
All right, namaste.
Great seeing everybody. Gordon, it's been a while. Good to see you. Oh, look at this.
All of them disappear. Hello, Tonya.
Is Tonya there?
And
Tonya! Yay!
Yeah, I guess the universe wanted us to welcome Tonya.
Yeah, so this is the time when we have a lot of people on YouTube and Facebook who may not know us. This is pretty normal.
All right, so let's let you know a little bit about what's happening right now. And it's that Satsangs is in a moment going to start talking about the structure of the program and kind of the organizing principles of what we're co-creating here. The 9-day retreat is the immersion, the ultimate immersion event of my relationship with all of you. It's in my experience that it's in this retreat that the Sat force begins to actually expand further into our system. And the preparation of the Sat force is so that it can come in and through us into the world. This is the nature of this new consciousness that has come. So in this, we are preparing ourselves to receive it and to meet that in us, which is in the way of receiving it in a new level, in the new depths. So it'll be both recognition of this greater shift in you as the experiencer and perceiver, but also a greater recognition of what's in the way of that new possibility coming into your embodiment, coming into your life, becoming a means by which you further come into existence. So all of my work is focused in that general category of things, but this is the one where we give almost exclusive attention to the silence and the stillness and the simplicity, to become empty, to become pure, to become receptive to this coming, and to be able to find a place of refuge, a place of calm within ourselves in order to take full advantage of this opportunity together. All right, so there's the summary. Now, Satsangs is going to talk about the vessel, the structure, the agreement that we're co-creating and supporting for this to be able to happen.
Okay, well, I welcome everybody. And many of you have gone through this before, but this may be the first time for some of you. What we do at this point is called the orientation. We'll go over the schedule and we will go over the guidelines. I'm not going to spend that much time with the schedule. All of you should have pulled the schedule off of or have access to it. It provides the timings for Europe, for the West Coast, and for the East Coast. And basically, if you have any questions, this would be a time to ask them. So if you don't think of it right now, if there's anything that you don't understand about the schedule, raise your hand and we can call on you, okay? And then you also have the opportunity to pull a schedule that's just for Europe, right here, except it does not include Ireland and Wales. You guys have to work out your timings. And then we have Pacific Daylight Time too. So these are individual schedules that are also in your participant packet. But we do ask you to read the schedule and be prepared to attend the program at least 10 minutes prior to the start. If anything comes up, then we will also address that, who you need to write an email to. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the guidelines. Okay, so basically we ask that you set up a location in your home where you'll be undisturbed for each session. take into consideration your location to avoid backlighting. So if you've got a lot of light coming in behind you, then we may not be able to see you that well if you come onto the screen. If you're using your phone to connect to Zoom, it needs to be stabilized on a firm surface. Otherwise, it disrupts your field. Sometimes it happens with the computers too, but not very often. We ask that you put yourself on mute during the broadcast time. So otherwise, we're hearing background noise. We're hearing children, we're hearing the kitchen, we're hearing the traffic. So we just ask that you put yourself on mute. Except for the use of your computer or your phone during broadcasts, we ask that you refrain from using electronic devices during the 9-day. Kindle use is okay. Any problems or questions involving the broadcast need to be sent to newdharma.audiovisual@gmail.com, and they will respond as soon as possible. There are 3 people sitting behind these screens, and so if you send that email, they're going to see it pretty quickly. And also, there will be 2 small online breakout groups during this retreat, and we will talk about that further down. If there is any questions regarding the programming, I did not add this here, but I'll just let you know that you want to contact newdharma.office@gmail.com. I think Natalie is on free today on YouTube, so she's also here, but she's the one who will respond back to you.
There's a delay between her lips and
There always is. There always is a little bit of a delay, Satsangs. Okay, we ask that you review the retreat schedule and show up online at least 10 minutes prior to the start of the session. Avoid distractions during your sits. Stay focused on what is happening inwardly. Honor what you are trying to create for yourself during this retreat. This is a special time. It's 9 days, and just do the best you can. Remain inwardly silent and outwardly quiet as possible during the retreat, except during small group meetings or with Satri interactions when he will take questions from the hot seats. We ask that you conduct no other spiritual practices during the 9-day, except if Satri has given you a mantra or a different technique. If you have any questions about that, write to newdharma.office@gmail.com and we'll be able to respond back to you. We ask that you avoid alcohol or caffeinated drinks, no drugs except those prescribed, no fasting during the retreat, no sex or smoking. Then that means anything. Okay, the silent sitting. So silent sitting is not necessarily meditation. It is a conscious effort to be silent and still outwardly and inwardly. There will be 3 silent sittings each day of 3 hours, of 2 hours each. Sorry, no laughing at me. Anyway, there'll be 3 sittings, 2 hours each. During those sittings, make yourself comfortable. Do not leave the online retreat during the sitting. Okay, you can leave once Satri has left. But the idea is you come to the retreat, you've already used the bathroom, you've got yourself set up, you're comfortable, you're in a space where you will not be interrupted, and you're there the entire 2 hours. For the silent sitting, you can sit on the floor, on a couch, in chairs, whatever has you be comfortable. Satri's attitude is that, as long as you're not lying down, but you're sitting up, by your body being relaxed, it allows the Sat force better access to your system. You can recline, but no laying down. Be comfortable, but not so comfortable that you fall asleep. So we say, try not to fall asleep. Now, often you may think you have fallen asleep, And you may hear yourself snoring or feel yourself drooling. This happens. But what it means is that your body may have fallen asleep, but your consciousness has not. It is still well aware of what is going on all around you. So don't worry about it. When we used to be able to meet in person, we used to have a nice conversation about what happens when people start snoring and what that means, which means that you get to endure calmly if you're sitting next to someone who's snoring. Oh, there are some of you who are sharing space, so that applies to you. All right. Silence and stillness are interrelated. It is best to move as little as possible as it helps the silence to build. It also avoids disrupting others on the broadcast. We ask that you not leave the bathroom. So you use the bathroom before you start your sit. We ask that you have no drinks except water and no reading or writing during the sits. And then you can use this moment, when you come out of the sit, notice your reactions, your feelings and thoughts, and write it down on a journal. It may be something you can go back and look at later on, or there may be a question that you want to pose to Shree at one of the hot seat opportunities. So we have some exercises we suggest for your silent sitting to help you move deeper into it. So as you're sitting, you become aware of your breath. Become aware of the energy in your body. Be in the present moment. Be here now. Notice what resists being present. So it could be a pain in your arm. It could be your knee. It could be the thoughts in your head. Notice these blocks: resistances, pressure, pain. Identify where they are in your body. This is important. Put your attention on that location, feeling into the experience until it speaks to you or fades. And if you can recall it when you come out, write down your experience. Notice what's going on in your body. Try to identify the source. Hint, its origin is not outside of yourself. And record your insights into a journal. Are there any questions? No questions. Okay. Now we're going to talk about small group guidelines. This is something new that we're adding. So all the full access participants all participants enrolled in the full retreat are assigned to a small group. You will receive an email from your small group facilitator on day 1 or day 2 of the retreat. If you don't receive the email, please contact newdharma@gmail.com. Refer to the retreat schedule for the day and time of the small group meetings according to your time zone. Please make sure you read the small group material documents under the participant page.
Is that on the website?
Yes, this is all on the website under participants. This handout contains important logistic information you will need to know. Okay. That's all I have today. And now we're going to turn this over to Shree.
Okay, so what you just heard is the structure, the way to organize ourselves in space and time together, and have a kind of a frame. Really, everything about the retreats are to create a container for you, a place where you are held within a framework in which you learn to honor or notice where you dishonor as part of the means of coming into commitment and alignment with what we're trying to accomplish here. So what are we trying to accomplish here? What is it that brought you here? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Right? I mean, really, this is the inquiry. It's really very, very fundamental. The structure only is to hold. It's fairly complex. There's a lot of pieces, but it's to hold. It's very simple. Diving into the very reason we're here, not just here in this 9-day, but here on this planet, here at this time. And what is the opportunity that we're bringing, that I'm bringing, that you all who have been with me for some time are bringing, and for those who are new, who perhaps have yet to discover, is a recognition of a new consciousness that is now available to mankind. Now, this recognition may not be clear at first because it has the effect of pushing that which is resisting it to the surface. This is why we talk so much about learning how to meet the darkness. But really the secret of meeting the darkness is simply to meet our bodies. That means literally, if we can take whatever arises during this retreat and find its reflection in our body, it may seem like a reflection, but actually all our thoughts and all our story and all our projections and all our fears and all our issues are the projections. The body is the container. It's actually the source of them. So during this retreat, the opportunity that we have together is to begin to wake up our body through our attention. Now, it is not the only source. It is the root. But what comes out of that root is then the core traumas and issues of our psychological development, comes out with the strategies and positions we've taken on or been conditioned with our minds. So they are also there. So we have to also give honor and recognition to those consequences of those patterns that are locked up in our body, in the rest of us, in our psychology, in our vital, in our emotional nature, in our desire nature, in our perceptions of what's possible and not possible, and what's safe and what's not safe, and all the rest of that comes with the mind. This is getting to know the vessel that you're currently occupying. Now, what is it that can know that vessel? That's what we're working on. That's why you're here. This new consciousness is here to enhance you as the knower, you as the experiencer of what you are, both in matter and in spirit. And that process of discovery where the two play in each other through the course of this retreat. Spirit will expand to the transmission, to the descent of the thought force, and matter will then get activated, and it will rise up and overtake your ability to access that spacious immediacy of the thought force. And then the thought force will be activated again, taking you up into a new relationship to what just rose up. And that new relationship shifts the quantum of matter and allows for the thought force to come in more deeply, more fully. And then, of course, what does that do? Well, it allows you to come and meet the part of your matter, the part of your embodiment that you haven't been awake enough, true enough, present enough to meet. And so it goes. So through this course of this retreat, you're going to go through a whole bunch of cycles, highs and lows. These are the cycles, the currents of gunas that activate our system and keep us moving and doing things. So you're going to have good days and bad days, good moments and bad moments. That's the nature of being in existence. Yet, the opportunity is to, in this process, discover a central principle of what we are, the essential core principle of that I amness, that me-ness, that thisness, the hangsa, that which is here, the sahang. The hang is this quality of self-awareness that is inherent in every awake human being, even though it may not be apparent to other human beings who aren't awake. It's the waters we swim in. And the characteristic of that title, self-awareness or I amness, is not a thing. It's a condition of being. It's a condition of intelligence. It's a principle that governs the entire existence. It's the fundamental baseline, the fabric, the basis of which this entire matrix of creation arose, of which we're an expression. So finding this within ourselves is the opportunity of these 9 days in a way that we haven't met it before, because it's so here, it's so present. It's like as more plain than the air you breathe, more obvious than the assumptions of the five senses and the mind about what existence and what reality is. It's the essential foundation where the knower arises. It is this very principle that draws from this unlimited condition of consciousness ourselves, us here now. And us here now have a power, a greater power than we know typically, to bring ourselves into existence in a new way. It has the power to choose. It has power to commit. It has the power to stick with the process beyond what it would do before. It is a quality of what I call our true authority that draws itself from the very fundamental principle I'm pointing to. This we call the Supreme Being, but it is actually simply the essence of the intelligence and the will and the potentiality that we all carry within ourselves. It is this that creates God. It's this that creates value. It's this that creates what is unwanted. It is this that creates what is wanted. It is this that unwittingly is bringing us into our day-to-day life, usually mostly on automatic. When we begin to align with this principle within ourselves, we discover that it's been living us all along, that it is our decision maker, that it's our chooser. It's the part that indulges or doesn't and restrains. It's the part that adapts or that resists adapting. It is a quality of our very being that in essence, in its origin, is free and ultimately capable to express and actualize itself in unlimited ways. But in our embodied form, it's been greatly limited and conditioned. That drives us, allows us not to recognize this incredible capacity, potentiality, possibility that we all are. Because it's this that collaborates with this greater consciousness that's coming during these 9 days. And that collaborating with that empowers that part of us. We gradually become that more and more fully in the course of the process. You're being saturated in the course of this retreat with that principle. It's a paradox that that which is within can actually be received from without, or so it seems. Because this within and without is simply an apparency of our embodiment. But it has a very tangible impact on our bodies, very tangible impact on our psychology, very powerful impact on our relationship with those parts of ourselves. It has an impact on the characteristic of the addiction of ego to keep repeating the same structures again and again without knowing it's doing that. It starts dismantling that automatic part of us that's our bodies, our emotions, our feelings, our beliefs, our ideas, our positions, our point of views, and allows for something truer to be manifest through this limited vehicle we all occupy, something greater, something more capable, something more able to be in the immediacy of existence, to recognize the miracle of what it is we are and existence is. So when you commit to this program, you commit to this. You use that piece of the power that you have access to, and you put yourself into a process. And one of the ways you empower this process is to commit to the structure, to honor the guidelines and the principles, the structure of the schedule and the showing up, and to realize that you're doing it to honor this structure. You're honoring everyone who is also seeking to honor the structure. Because the great vastness of what's coming to us cannot be held without a structure. It cannot be recognized unless there is a recognizer there able to see the nature of what's arising in any one moment within that structure. To be with it in new ways, in ways you hadn't been before. They may be familiar at first, especially parts of ourselves we've not been able to be in relationship with. Parts of ourselves we don't know, that essential quality of ignorance that still mistakenly believes ignorance is truth or takes it for granted. I'm small, I'm petty, I'm free to do whatever I want when I want it. Whatever be the paradigm that you've unwittingly taken on or was imposed on you or created. So this discovering your role, our role, in creating how life is showing up as it currently is a step to come beyond that, going beyond that life, to wake up to not recognizing that you actually don't know, that maybe you're actually full of shit. Maybe you're stuck in a strategy of self-protection or projection that blames everybody else for the problems you're actually creating or which aren't there, which you are looking through the lens of imagining are there. You catch yourself in the act of your ignorance. You catch yourself in the act of your assumptions. And that's the power of this program. And that's what's possible. Now, most of you have been with me long enough. I went through the list of attendees. I recognized almost everybody. I've never been able to recognize that many people in my life. So clearly my capacity to recognition is expanding as the more of you come. But that recognition brings something of our relationship forward for me. Something of the link you've created, and that I respond to. I can't help but respond to your choosing to align with this opportunity. And that's letting you know that something is accessible to you that's greater than what you could do by yourself. And it's there with you in this retreat, and it will come forward for most of you, especially those who've been with me for longer periods of time, to recognize the power of the devotion, the power of devotion to align our attention to this possibility of becoming that we're speaking of, and that we will continue to speak of over these next 9 days. It already comes down to the ultimate realization cannot be found without devotion. It can't be done just through awareness. But the awareness is a critical part of it as well. And for some of you, the awareness is not as developed as the devotion. And for some of you, the devotion is not as developed as the awareness. So you will encounter those things in either arena. In the devotional arena, you will wake up in new ways. That takes you out of the immediacy and the simplicity of devotion. And in awareness, you'll feel and meet and experience parts of the issues that are left in you that your awareness has been allowed you to bypass. And that's what you would want. That is what this is. A dedicated piece of your life where everything else is removed as best as possible, since you're all at home, in order to be in this opportunity, in this sacred space we're creating in the sacrifice of choosing to set aside these 9 days to be here engaged in this. Sacrifice is what makes it sacred. It's what strengthens the choice that you've made to be here and what empowers you to bring it into your lives more deeply. So I recognize you're right there in your homes or the territory you're used to. And for some of you, it's not going to be a problem, but for others of you, you'll meet the vibrational field of the habit of you, wherever you are. It'll come and have its influence. It could be someone who's living in the house with you. It could be your dog or cat. It could be the familiar furniture. It could be the interruption or the call or the demand of the outer world on you in any one moment during these 9 days. And those become opportunities to meet the content that still remains, that's still hidden, rather than get lost in it, but to see it as an opportunity to expand what you've aligned yourself with in these 9 days, to choose it from a different paradigm, a different context than how it usually runs you, as an opportunity to dive into, if nothing else, with curiosity, but to begin to discover ultimately its impact and how it shaped you as a being in your body in life. So it richens and it deepens and it tests you in ways that would be different if we were all in Mundekulla together, right? Because that's what we're missing, right? Now, Mundekulla couldn't hold as many people who are here this time.
No, it could.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right, that's then exactly why we have all of you. But you don't got the earth spirits, and you don't have the mushrooms in the forest, and you don't have the lovely aspect of nature, except whatever your approximation of that might be. So we're missing that part. But then at the same time, we can discover that miracle place wherever we are in this process together. And the greatest miracle is when we start hearing from each other. And you're going to do that in the small groups, but it's going to be a few days. We're not going to let you jump into the small groups and share what's going on. And I invite you not to share what's going on with somebody who isn't directly involved with the program with you, so that you can be with your own process and let it build and let it articulate even between the silent sittings or these talks. Marinate with whatever is arising and use that as the opportunity to dive into those parts of yourself you didn't know before, that you didn't want to know before, that you've not met yet or have not met with the fullness of what it represents, so that you can make this entire 9 days sacred. And that begins to speak to the thing that we're trying to bring forward, the truth of you, this very fundamental principle that allows you to be aware of your own existence. So what we're pointing to in the 9 day, in this silence and stillness and simplicity, we're going to dive into this as time goes on more and more, but I'm going to read a little bit from the first introduction to this cosmic principle, actually, though it's also universal. From the 8th chapter of the Gita. The Gita has a number of places where the revelations of this quality of our I amness become poignant. It doesn't really start until after the 6th chapter. It starts with the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll quote from that. And then it goes on until the 11th chapter, and then the 15th chapter. And all of this is a process of coming into recognition of what it is we're looking to attend to today and for the rest of this program. So I'm going to read a bit from the chapter that's titled The Yoga of the Imperishable Brahman. This is the revelation that came right after the 7th chapter, where Arjuna committed to make the transition from the individual awakening of the self in the 6th chapter to transitioning into the awakening of the universal divine nature. And so this is the first orientation where Arjuna came forward with some questions like, what am I getting into? What is this exactly? And that is actually the legitimate question for all of you to have right now. Please explain to me the concepts of this absolute, the spirit in action, and also which is called matter and divine intelligence. Krishna, who is the Lord of sacrifices in this body? And how do yogis know you at the time of leaving their body? Okay, now this is coming out of the trepidation of Arjuna, because he's leaving behind kind of the completeness and the personal bliss and peace of his meditation states and his self-awareness, and risking that for something not yet known. Once again, another leap. So he wants to get some sense of the territory. Ego can't help itself. It wants to know what it's getting into. So here he begins the revelations. Everything that's perishable is matter. The cosmic being is itself the divine intelligence. I am the Lord of sacrifices in this body. At the time of leaving the body, if anyone thinks of me, definitely it names me. Now, the Gita uses the word think, but it's not think. It's where your attention is organized. So it's curious. I am the Lord of sacrifice. Krishna says, I'm the Lord of sacrifice. And elsewhere he says, I am you. I am that. So who's the Lord of sacrifices? We are the Lord of sacrifices. We sacrifice that which separates us from the Lord that we are, from the divinity that we are. So the principle of sacrificing is being spoken of. That was spoken of strongly in the 3rd chapter. But here it's pointing to the fact that all our sacrifices serves a manifestation of something greater than ourselves. If through set practice of constant contemplation, one is linked with the Supreme Being and his mind does not go anywhere else, he attains him. So this is in the language of 3,000 years ago, but basically, the more you are connected to that principle within yourself, the more you are aware of your awareness, the more you churn deeply within to yourself, into your embodiment, into this location in the vessel of your body, and you live from more and more fully from that place, the more you become what the Supreme Being is. The Supreme Being is a principle until it becomes embodied. We are the agencies. We are the means by which the Supreme comes into existence. And it can only do so through all the parts of ourself, starting with our physical embodiment. It is the true field, it is the arena. So therefore, when we go through this retreat, the more you are aware of your body, the more you're going to be in the fullness of the opportunity of what this principle is for yourself. Now, you cannot constantly contemplate through your awareness. Sorry, try it. Your attention span may be expanded. You could stay focused, but it's very, very hard to discipline the quality of our awareness. It requires you to be alert, awake, and in the ordeal of controlling your attention from all the ways it wants to go into thoughts, into projections, into looking around and assessing. It's not possible. True contemplation is when devotion is also there. Because devotion brings in the whole body. Devotion brings in the whole system. Devotion brings this part of us that doesn't want to be anyplace else but in contemplation. And therefore the mind quiets because the attention is embodied and aligned with the unfolding of that principle within ourselves. I will tell you briefly about the supreme goal that the knowers of the Vedas say is imperishable, and to which the striving recluses enter after becoming free from passion. It is the same state to which celibates also aspire, controlling all the gates of the body, confining the mind in the heart, placing the vital breath in the head, established in the yoga of meditation, and uttering the single syllable Om while meditating on me. If one leaves the body, he attains the supreme state. It doesn't mean when you die. It means that when that quality that you're contemplating on becomes so strong that the mind and the body and the five senses and the organizational principle of your embodiment disappear, you become this essential principle. And although it can be very much in your awareness, in this opportunity, the experiential component is what allows for it to become embodied. It's only through the attention and the devotion to this disembodiment and this embodiment simultaneously that the fullness can be fully known. But interimly, when you are no longer there, you may be conscious or you may not be. Most of us can't be conscious when that happens. You're just gone. You're just gone. You don't know what happened. But if you're embodied, you're not entirely gone. And you start to experience what the body does in response to a cosmic condition of being. And so it leaves this lasting impression in the very physicality, vibration of your emotional body, the vibration of the vital, the vibration of your awareness, the character of your thoughts, the core principles that keep your thoughts stuck in certain structures start relaxing into this merging with unity with this principle that this chapter talks to called the Brahman. And when that happens, you're home. When that happens, you are in that imperishable moment of timeless moment, beyond space and time and matter, freed, even if you can't remember it. And then your being, though, in those moments doesn't want to be anyplace else, even if you come back into your body and say, where was I? It just means the gap of this imperishable supreme and you in your normal state is so large that you can't bring anything back from it. But in time, the gap closes and you bring back more and more of what that principle is. And that ability to make it real, to live it, that's the work we're going to be engaged in this program. Embodying this principle, making it alive in our bodies, alive in the wholeness of the field of our bodies. All the worlds from Brahma's realm are subject to reoccurrence, but after attaining me, there is no rebirth. In the moment of the merger, all of these things disappear. There is no space. There is no time. There's only this one timeless moment, which when you're in it, has no beginning, has no end. And that is your final refuge. That is your supreme abode. That is where that essential supreme principle as you lives. So you begin to meet that in those moments. It's called samadhi, but you may not know that that's samadhi. You're just not there, nor is anything else. But you actually, this very central principle of your I-ness is being nurtured. It's being fed. It's being empowered. It's becoming real in the process of these times where this occurs. That unmanifest imperishable is the ultimate goal, and that is my supreme abode. from which there is no return. So ultimately, in our journey, we do return. But when you're there, there's no need for return. And when you can bring that no need to be here out of freedom rather than fear or repulsion, then we have returned, even though we went nowhere. So the timeless reality becomes an aspect of our personality, of our lived life, of the actions we choose, our capacity to commit. It isn't this abstract principle. Yes, in the old traditions, that was the focus. Get the hell out of Dodge. The world was too dense, too small, too bound by the physicality of the earth. That's not the case anymore. Look at where we are. We're in a virtual world right now. All that is happening to you right now is through a different domain than the physicality. It's like you're halfway there, or well, at least the first eighth of the way there. Just the fact that we're in relationship with each other remotely. We created that as a species. We are the ones who are taking advantage of it during this time of crisis. We are the ones that together can gather from all different time zones and places where space and time is no longer the definer of what's possible. To be here, to co-create what's happening now. All right, so let's just take a few minutes and let's be in silence together to be in touch with this, whatever this is for you, this moment for you, this entry point into 9 days of immersion, of saturation into this possibility, this potentiality, this actual truth of you. All right. Just a couple of minutes. Don't want to go too long because we're going to come back right into the mind. And I invite you to be willing to go on the ride that I'm taking you on. Oh, Supreme Being, I invite you to come into all of us, to open the place, the space, for you to come into our bodies, into our being, into our lives, so that you may manifest your boundless love, your boundless capacities to manifest itself, yourself, in ourselves and in our lives and in the world. Let that be this prayer. And may you give us the strength to let go and surrender, to open and be vulnerable, to allow the process that may be arising for us over the course of this time together to be restored, to be renewed. Now just be in your body in this last few moments. Be aware of what's happening also in your body. Okay, now I'm going to invite you to use the power that is inherent in you to bring your attention back to this moment, to here now, to be able to receive this much lower vibrational frequency as a choice to step back down and let this further revelation that we'll read here into the room come into you. And you don't have to follow all the words, but you want to be directly with what is being communicated using your intelligence and your mind. Because of course, this is the source of a lot of the problems that prevent us from embodying this principle. So the mental understanding is, I recognize, a key to bringing this into our lived 24-hour day lives. So this is right information about the nature of our predicament and what's possible that we're going to read into the space you're in right now. Okay?
All right. So now we're going to read through the retreat manual. I turned off. All right, so we're going to read through the retreat manual, and Shree will comment as we go along. So here we go. The 9-day retreat is not only a retreat from the world of demand, distraction, and responsibility, it is also a retreat from the habit of your egoic self in order to more firmly establish your divine nature. To create a value for yourself, a silent retreat requires a commitment on your part to follow the structure and to surrender yourself to the program. It is an opportunity to go more deeply inward and to relinquish, to let go in ways you have not yet done. It is an opportunity to shed the habit of your ego and enter deeply into the field of being that lives you, your eternal self.
So this is pointing to the necessary inwardness. So there will be distractions. There will be circumstances that arise in your home or wherever you are situation. Whatever that is, when you notice yourself being pulled outward or going into your mental structures, hold on, be aware of your inwardness inside the body. I recommend you get 60% of your attention is inward and 40% outward during the time of these 9 days, no matter what may arise. When you notice yourself getting thrown out, become inward. This training yourself to be inward, you can do. It is a conscious choice. Just like I asked you to come back now into this state so you can hear this vibrational frequency that we're speaking to. You are actually free to play and dance in all the vibrational frequencies, but we're addicted to just a few of them. Learning to organize ourselves that we are inward, we find that our hand is on the rudder of what we make important or not. So the inwardness is your power point. The inwardness is the place to stand during these 9 days as you deal with whatever may be arising, both within the time we're together and in your life in between. Okay.
Okay. Know the Sat. Silence and stillness are the qualities of the Sat and also the means to attaining it. The purpose of this retreat is to introduce you to the Sat by sitting in this silence and stillness. The Sat is the unchanging eternal reality that is the source of you and of all existence. During this 9-day retreat, the Sat will become more and more present. A force will be released and felt, consciously or unconsciously. This force is called Sat Chitananda, truth, consciousness, bliss.
Sat. Sat, Sanskrit just means truth or goodness. But I found that name came to me when I first met it. Now, I met it in my awareness, and I met it after many, many years in all the experiential domains in between. And when I crossed that threshold, when I went beyond the gunas, I first recognized that I was all these gods. I was all these principles. I was the guru. I was the divine being. I was this force and that force, and all the terms, words, and names of gods we've heard. That it was all there, and it was so simple, so plain, so obvious to me. And it was after that I met the Sat. And it was the end. It was the end. And what happened was a complete and utter collapse of my consciousness. Just collapse, gone. Whatever I was, whatever my self-awareness was, ended in that moment of recognition. But I was awake for it. I didn't go out. I was there with it. And that quality never left. As a matter of fact, since then it's grown. And so it's an inexplicable quality of existence outside of existence in this paradoxical way. That which was even prior to the Brahman that I referenced before, which is the field in which this whole creation arises. Was a principle that's more fundamental. It is the source of the Om Tat Sat. It's the source of the three gunas. It's from this that the creation became a possibility. So it's a potentiality. And in those moments, I recognized briefly, as much as my body could handle at that moment, the immensity of the inherent power of that potentiality. I actually experienced it as a solidness in my body, a solidity that I had never met before. And it was absolute in its authority. So part of what you will notice when the Sat force is coming is a density or a heaviness or a pressure as this principle seeks to manifest itself in you. And why is it that way? Because our body has to be transmuted. It has to go through an alchemy, a transmutation of the very substance of the body, where there is much more consciousness mingled in with the fabric of matter that our body is made up of, in order for it to come in without that pressure. And then the Sat force can't be known or experienced in the usual ways except through the body. Otherwise, you do disappear. Without strong embodiment, you cannot know the Sat. You can't experience the Sat. Okay, we'll expand on this, of course, as we go through this retreat.
Plenty of times. This force will put pressure on your system. This pressure may expand your awareness and cause spiritual experiences, or you may experience nothing. You may experience blocks, disturbing feelings or thoughts, or not notice anything at all. This pressure is likely to push to the surface the obscurity, resistance, and barriers you have to the Sat and its force. These are like debris on the rising plume of an erupting volcano. If this happens, you will have to experience these experiences. Any or all of these can happen.
It's hard to give a blanket statement for what's possible
Right.
to happen in this program. So it is for you to begin to recognize that whatever is arising, and usually it'll be something especially good, especially bad, it is purposeful within the context of the Sat trying to manifest self in you. It may not be the case in another situation. It may not be the case in your, certainly other times of your life. But we have over 90 people aligned with this principle manifesting itself now. That's evoking a quality of the immediacy of the possibility of the Sat becoming apparent to you. So making something sacred is also realizing the sacredness of what's arising. Okay?
Okay. Meet the void. There is a shadow side of yourself, the void. This is the dimension of your nature that is the storehouse of all your avoids, your avoided experiences. In this retreat, you may begin to experience these avoided experiences. This is necessary. These may appear as a familiar negative mood, a depression, or a compulsive pattern of thinking that seems to swallow you. You may feel fearful, anxious, or judgmental, or you may feel irritated or angry, but be alert. These are not ordinary experiences. These experiences are due to the pressure of the thought that is trying to manifest itself in you.
And don't expect that this is going to be the only place that happens. Once you start open up to this current, it becomes your lived life. So you'll be constantly meeting that new you haven't been able to meet before. You'll be constantly be strengthened in your capacity to be with those things simultaneously. So it's a paradox where when we're most defeated, we find the greatest strength. This is the nature of this unfolding as we meet these avoided, unmet parts of ourselves where we become defeated by them. And then unwittingly, like as a magic, come out again, a reset button on your avatar in a whole new way than what you were before you entered into it. Okay.
Wake up. To wake up means to become aware of the suffering you have unwittingly taken on or are creating. To wake up allows you to see what you have taken for granted, the unseen and hidden structures within yourself. Once these are revealed, it is possible to recognize them and see through them, thus allowing you to remove them. And in the process, discover what works, what is real, true, and lasting. This is what it means to get real.
Continue.
You must wake up and reveal these hidden structures in yourself, bringing them into the illumination of the higher consciousness that is generated in this retreat so they can be clearly seen. By doing so, you free yourself of their hold on you enough to realize them. This allows you to get real, to come to responsibility to the cause of your own experience. It is actually an empowering realization. It is the first step towards a life beyond suffering.
The nature of waking up is you become aware that you've been sleeping. Duh, right? There could be no waking up unless something's asleep. So the nature of what we are when we're awake has a greater capacity to be with that in us when we were asleep, that we haven't met or don't recognize or couldn't separate out from the content of our habitual orientations to life. The nature of this process of waking up is disturbing by its inherent design. Because what's waking up? Well, of course, it's going to be asleep. And since historically 90% of us is asleep, that's a lot of stuff to wake up to. And the nature of our awake state prefers that those parts stay asleep. So waking up is often going to be territory we didn't want to be with. But in the process, we awaken more. It's as if we eat the sleep, converting it into more awake. We eat the darkness of the sleeping state and we make it awake by meeting it. It isn't something we have to do, but we can collaborate with it when it's happening by recognizing that's what's happening. What is waking up? It's recognizing this is what's happening right here, right now. How fully you can recognize what's here right now determines your attainment. If you can recognize that this conversation here right now is happening all over the universe, then you're there. But if you can recognize it's happening here for you in this virtual room, then that's good enough to enter into this domain of awakening. It never ends to that which is still asleep. This domain is full of unawakened content. It's been going on for millions of years. We're just like the latest byproduct of that unwitting mechanism that's buried in that quantum of ourselves that's asleep. So it's a terrific arena when you create the right attitude, because you've opened up a whole new world to find, or worlds to find. We don't need to go to Mars. There are worlds and worlds and worlds within us that we have not known yet, that we're still ignorant of. So when the awakening process, you don't want to end when you discover what's coming to you in the process of waking up. Okay?
Okay. So once you wake up, you now get to be present. Being here now in the present moment has the power to shift your relationship with existence. It is a power that arises when you drop your habitual patterns of thinking and reacting and move into an immediate direct relationship with what is arising without a story, judgment, or belief. Being present is how you develop presence. This quality is essential for penetrating into the remaining hidden structures and unexperienced experiences that make up the inner void you have spent your life avoiding.
Any moment in time, any place in time, any set of circumstances, if we are able to be present with, is the doorway to meeting all that we're not able to be present with. The power of commitment is to choose this now, here, now. That power arises from the very thing we seek. And when we can choose to be here now as the entry point into access to that, not only that power, but that very essential principle that we are as bodies, not as the story, not as the emotional reactivity, not as the conditioning, not as the trauma, but as a body in the immediacy of this now, the more we become supreme, the more this sought becomes the truth that we are. Okay.
Okay. Next is to be the cause. While in this retreat, try not to assign the cause of any unwanted or negative thoughts, experiences, or sensations that may arise to something outside yourself. Instead, look inward and seek to find the source of what is arising. Enter into whatever you are experiencing by being present with it in the state of presence. Being present is the same as being in the state of presence. The now is a timeless moment and carries inherent within it the sought itself. Each time you come to cause, the sought within you is revealed.
Remember, what is now, the true now, is outside of time. Yet all time, all past, and all future is here. That means your story about yourself, the life you lived, the rules you made about your shoulds and shouldn'ts, the times you failed, the times you were overtaken, the times you lost access to your better self and you became your worst self, the times where that could happen in the future, where there would be set of situations that would be fearful for you because of that past. This parts of you that brings time into the formula of this present moment disempowers the power of your presence. You can meet the past because it's right there with you. I'm not speaking abstractly. There is no remembrance except in the now. There is no projection into the future except from now. That is the fundamental truth. If you've got a story about, I am this limited, I can't do this and all this because of that, you've assigned a cause to that, You are missing the opportunity of recognizing that that is an event that could be met right here for the purpose of dismantling the artificial power we've given it away to it, to pull it back, to reclaim the part of ourselves that we lost. We were too young to know better. The part of ourselves that's unwittingly perpetuating the negative structures that are keeping us diminished. We begin to reclaim the authority we've unwittingly given away because of pleasure or because of pain or because of fear or because of avoidance, because of security or the need of love or recognition. Bringing it all here right now in this present moment, meeting them as they arise again in the true battlefield of your body. That's the opportunity of coming to cause. There is no other authority except that which you've created. You've created God. Mankind created God. God didn't need to exist. Mankind created God, and by doing so, empowered God. The principle here is that we discover that we are the ones that are perpetuating our separation from God. We're the ones that believe we can't be that. Yet we are in the process of meeting them, discovering that in us, which creates God. That in us, which creates the Supreme Being. That is us that creates everything that's arising in existence in the past or in the infinite future. Okay?
Okay. You want to listen to your body. It can help to put your attention on the part of your body that is being impacted by these experiences. Notice where the experience is felt in your body. It may be a sensation, pressure, discomfort, pain, or numbness. Whatever comes up, try not to judge it or push it away. Just be present with it without moving or making noise for as long as possible.
The principle of silence and stillness. Stop. Just stop. Stop being you. Stop doing ego. Stop feeding the egoing, the mind, the emotions, the issues of your psychological adaptation, the discomfort, the pain. Just stop. Be with it. Be with it for as long as you can tolerate. And then move. Then make an adjustment. Then fix it. Because the bottom line of it is learning to train the body to sit silent and still is a long-term endeavor of dismantling the habit that keeps us endlessly moving. Stopping the movement. Now, we cannot do this, but we can allow it to happen by withdrawing our consent to keep doing, to keep moving, to keep thinking, to keep complaining about the boredom or the discomfort, to withdraw the part of us that powers whatever sensation arises and assigns a value or a story to it. Catch yourself in the act so that you can be this very, very, very simple, immediate, present, silent stillness in your body. Okay.
Okay. Pay attention. What sensations, thoughts, or feelings are you experiencing? Pay attention to them. Expand them. Let them fill your attention and be with them. Experiencing yourself as the cause and not attributing your experience to something outside of yourself, either from the past, the future, or now in the present situation. Do this without taking any action.
So that if you read this periodically during this retreat, it'll bring you back to the opportunity of this retreat. Because sometimes it's very hard to keep track of this. After some days, there's sort of a dissolving that goes on. It's hard to track why you're here and what you're doing. But by reviewing this, it may assist you in being reminded that the opportunity is to be in your body and to meet all arising from the simplicity of the energy and the sensations that come out of the body, and not trying to figure it out or make into something more than it is or make something into less than it is. this discovery of being in your body will give you the simplicity. It'll give you the ease, the relaxation, the spaciousness for your awareness to be there in full attention. Okay.
The experience will begin to speak to you. It will tell you about it itself. Keep listening until the sensations, experiences, or thoughts fade, disappear, or break through. This is the process of transformation. At first, this may be difficult, but as you succeed in integrating the force of the thought, it will become easier and easier. Here are some suggestions for listening to your body. Consciously withdraw your attention from the outer circumstances. You can do this by closing your eyes or leaving them open, but not focusing on anything. Become aware of your body. Become aware of your breathing. It may help to consciously breathe. Become aware of the energy in your body. Become aware of any pressure, pain, or other sensations. Focus your attention on that. Listen to what it is saying.
And don't listen to your mind. Your mind is the one who's going to say, this is bad or this is good. The mind is the one that's going to be always trying to interject what its habitual orientation is to whatever arises. Now, you're not going to be able to do this if you're entering into new territory of your unmet parts. It's going to be messy. You're not going to know the right relationship. You're not going to know what happened to you. You're not going to know what it means. So the idea of projecting into the future or bringing something from the past will just get in the way. So key here is to find the place of empty mind, open heart, relaxed body. So how do you do this? How do you open your heart? How do you relax in your body? You can't know immediately, but when it comes, you'll know it. And when it's not there, you can't know it because you're in a process of transition. So from this day, I will be speaking like this at this time of the day, every one of these days. But it will be for 3 days before you'll be in a small group where you can begin to try to get some clarity, some perspective. And that will build up a process in you of disturbance, likely, that your job is to hold and recognize is part of the purpose of this retreat, and sort your own way best you can in order how to be with this, to understand how to be with this, or to be with this. And the secret, the greatest and most effective way is to meet the event, the story, the reenactment, the projection, the anxiety that's arising in your body. Because when you do that, you'll see it passes. Things will come and go. And the part of you that thinks it's too much what's come is the part that you're working with. The thing that can be with what comes and goes, the part will allow it to go. The part that can't be is what keeps it in place. The resistance, the inability to be with it. So in this process, you'll have to figure out for yourself. This is messy. It is not something, you're not going to be in the best state of consciousness. You're not going to be in your sharp awareness that you would rather be in. You're going to be in whatever awareness you're capable of at the moment of the arising of what the sat or the asat is arising. So be where you are. The choice and the willingness to do this is going to be a reflection of the maturity of you on the spiritual journey up to now. You on the human journey and the spiritual journey up to now. This maturity, this maturation is an evidence of the readiness of your being and your person at this stage of time and space that we find ourselves in now. The recognition of the timeless moment is that there is something greater that has yet to manifest, even while you're in the midst of something that doesn't seem timeless. Okay, and then that takes us to a principle that we're going to speak again here.
Actualize your true authority. True authority does not come from the ego. Rather, it is an expression of a universal principle that is behind all existence, divine will. This will is the animating force of creation. At its core is a will to be, to exist, to experience, to learn, to grow and develop, and ultimately to wake up. It is the force that drives all of existence. It is what animates the creation and in fact lives each of us. When you open to this force, something greater begins to live you.
So you can't meet this through the ordinary course of our adapted lives. There has to be a peril. There has to be a problem or a process in order for this authority to start actualizing itself. Otherwise, the degree of authority you've gotten is all you had up to now. So the expansion of the authority is a process by which you choose to be with. That would be your authority, choosing to be present with, choosing to use the structure of this program consciously to collaborate with your own process. It's like throwing you into the swimming pool as a baby to see if you sink or swim. So these next 3 days will be your sink or swim moment where you'll meet the peril of what's remaining in you. It's a very important time because it prepares you for what will follow. We will be there. Now, what will carry you through this is our relationship. What carried Arjuna through his battlefield was Krishna. So the principle here is you're not doing this alone, even though you're in the midst of it and believing you're alone. And that is what strengthens your faith, not only in yourself, but in the process that you're in. Faith is that which can allows you to continue even when there's no evidence of benefit. You don't need faith unless there's an opportunity where it looks like you could lose. So it is this calling up a reserve within ourselves that has that principle that carries us through the ordeals to the other side.
Okay. When this happens, you have awakened to the true opportunity life is. Life opens for you. There is this ability to sense new realities, new paradigms for being. With this comes a sense of your responsibility to the world. You discover your purpose, and with it, the clear seeing, the difference you can make, and with it, this true authority.
Continue.
Divine's will can now manifest itself through you. It is a tangible quality, a radiance or transmission that you can feel. You are given a work, a mission to open to, integrate, and establish the new consciousness, first in yourself, then in the world. This creates a new relationship with existence, one based on the inner reality, the true essential authority you are.
You must understand that this process of recognition and bringing this into your life purposefully has stages. It is times where that greater truth that you are will lift you from where you've been and show you a new way to be in relationship with existence. It's not something you do. It's just you're perceiving and experiencing from a different place. And therefore you're seeing opportunity where before it was something you would be avoiding. You begin to perceive existence in the greater freedom of what you're becoming. But each step of it seems in itself to be the place, but it's not. It's just a place you'll come to until it becomes stable enough for the next shift, and the next shift, and the next shift, and the next shift. So it's the unfolding of an alignment of our truth, our true authority with our purpose for being here on the planet. Go ahead.
Okay, discover your purpose. A purposeful life takes you out of a life of suffering and misery into an awakened life, enlivened, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. This is the miracle of a purposeful life. It begins when you have been touched by something beyond your ordinary human capacity to know or experience. This can be a sudden or progressive awakening out of your old self, or an experience that gives you a glimpse of a new way of being.
Continue.
When you choose a purposeful life, you align with this original intent, and in the process, you tap into the current that arises from it. This current is the force of Satchitananda, truth, consciousness, bliss. This force sets in motion a transformational process that changes the foundational basis of your reality. You gain the strength, clarity, and capacity to offer up yourself and your life to this greater purpose. You become an instrument and channel for creation's original purpose.
So this manual is pointing to the process and the outcome of both the Bhagavad Gita and the Mother Book, which is to empower Arjuna to enter into the great battle of the rest of life, and for the mother to become a divine worker, and in the process become a manifesting means by which all the powers of the mother can come into the creation. So this is all pointing to a bottom line, which is how to live a divine life. This is the manifestation. This is the process. Though we are on 1 9-day, and though we will have many different topics we'll be exploring, it is part of a step-by-step process, like each chapter of the Gita or each chapter of Sri Aurobindo's Mother Book, taking us to the same outcome, a divine life.
Okay, live a divine life. A divine life begins when you have been touched by something beyond the ordinary human capacity to know or experience. This can be an inspiration, a glimpse of a presence, or an experience of forces beyond the ordinary. When the shift occurs, one naturally strives to realign their lives to serve something greater, something not yet known, and yet sensed in a way you cannot explain. You find a will in yourself to change and grow, to evolve into something more real, more true than you have lived before, even if it requires sacrificing your life as you have known it. By choosing to live a divine life, you begin when you strive to align your inner life with the outer. As you do so, you not only begin to tap into this current of Satchitananda, but in the process, become it. It is a way to live that takes you out of a life of suffering and misery into an awakened life, purposeful and deeply fulfilling. This is the miracle of living a divine life.
Okay, so these are not abstractions. This is what brings me to you. This is what brings Satsang to you. This is what brings the 20 years of laboring that was required to come to this point, and the laboring that lies ahead of us in order to continue to fulfill this mission. This is those of you who have come here. You have already begun the process. Many of you have already begun the process of aligning your outer life with the inner, that you're actively engaged in what we're speaking of, and that this is the process that you're going through continuously. Some aspect more important than other aspects, but this is the manual. This is the pointers to what you've committed yourself to. And so many of you are here as a continuing of a process of making real your own divinity, and thereby your ability to play your role in this time of transition. This greater purpose that inspires you to keep participating, keep meeting what's separating you from this capacity is what brings you here. It's with you right here, right now. And I'm here not to tell you something you don't already know. I'm telling you something you already know, but to empower it and to strengthen its reality in you and in your life, and empowering you to strengthen you to make the next step, whatever that may be, that may show up during the time of this 9-day retreat, which will take you beyond all those definers of who you are and what's possible for you. It's a continuous process. It's my experience. I go through this with you. I know that now our lives are utterly aligned with this work, but that doesn't mean there isn't a human life. It doesn't mean that it's all apparent sacrifice, because when you're in surrender, there is no sacrifice. It's just the joyous unfolding of what's left to be found. The principles here are actually fundamental truths that were there on any teaching that had an outcome other than just worshiping, or had an outcome other than being a faithful yogi or a faithful student. It is taking you to a place that recovers the very essential quality of what you are and its purpose in you. So it's good. This video will be available to you. You can re-listen to it. You can take segments out of it, not too long. Just skip through it till something strikes, and then be with that and let that deepen where you are at that moment to help see the opportunity of this 9-day. You don't need to look much further than what we're speaking of right here and your own process. And developing the skillfulness to move into relationship with that process without retreating to some previous adaptation. Because many of you have been with me for years and you've become numb to hearing these words. But in truth, when you're in truth, they're always new and they're always opening up new to territory. If you're numb, then you've retreated into a habitual response of your ego that doesn't want to know this, doesn't want to wake up, wants to stay with its interim stage, whatever that may be, because there's many stages and the ego lays claim to each one. And the ego will do egoing wherever it can because it believes that egoing is the only way it will live. So this going beyond yourself, it's continuing to open up to what you think you already know, not just what you don't know. Stepping beyond the definer of what we think we know. Because every time we do, we discover a new capacity to know, a new capacity to experience, a new capacity to be. Okay, well, there you have it. So we are going to have about a half an hour sitting, and this will be the beginning of the silent program, the silent 9-day program. So tray tables up, seatbelt strapped. We have begun the ride. You're on a ride. You're going to be taken wherever you go, high or low, wherever it goes, you're in. So be with yourself as if there is no other place to be than be with yourself right here, right now. Okay, so welcome. And congratulations on having be here on this moment of leap. All right.